Hey, what's up guys? I'm on my usual little walk here in I think it's like Old Town Garden Grove. I just shaved, so hopefully I look my age again. But topic of today, I find that I start these videos off saying a lot of the same things and I end them saying a lot of the same things. So I need to have like a cool little routine around this, but I don't have it yet. I need to cut it like a wrestling promo. Topic of today that I want to talk about is training for muscle gain. Now, I'm not the most qualified person to talk about this because I'm not the most jacked dude in the room, but I think a lot of that has to do with eating and nutrition and, supplementation and then supplementation, that kind of supplementation that involves extra legal substances. So I just want to talk simply about what's worked for me in terms of building muscle over the years. I've had times when I've been kind of big when I was like 17, 18, got obsessed with lifting and ate everything in sight, but it led to some health issues, some gut issues, skin issues. I've also had times when I was extremely skinny in my keto journey, my carnivore journey, as well as when I was a vegan. I didn't really have any choice. I kind of had to be extremely skinny because that's just sort of what happens. So what I've found that really works for me in terms of building muscle, and let's just zoom out real quick because we're going to be talking about training, but if we zoom out real quick, there's a few basics. Meat is amazing. Meat, eggs, fish, just great animal protein staples, and in some way incorporating a calorie surplus or at least maintenance, so eating enough. And then on top of that, I will say that carbs will definitely help fill you out. They'll fill out that muscle glycogen so you will appear more muscular. And they might help you train a little bit harder, which may then, lead downstream to a little bit more muscle gains. So those are just some dietary basics. The carbs aren't necessary. You can train without them. You can have muscle glycogen without them. Just makes it easier for a lot of people. Now, back to the training. What I really want to talk about. What I found works really well for me is lifting 3 times a week and then being active on the other days. So for me, that ends up being jogging. I don't think that's optimal. If you want to build the most muscle, probably walking would be sufficient. I like jogging just to sweat and to get rid of water weight and to keep a nice chiseled appearance, but you definitely don't need to do that. And now when we get to the training, why 3 times a week? I've done 4 times a week, I've done 5, 6, never really done 7 days a week consistently, but I have done periods of training where I'm training, about 6 days a week. And I just find that you get diminishing returns, by expending that sort of glycolytic intense effort at the gym 6 days a week. You got to be eating a lot to do that, and you just kind of get diminishing returns. You're not really going as hard as you possibly can. I found when you really hit it intensely 3 days a week, and then you have that nice active recovery day in between, and you're getting enough sleep, you can really start to maximize gains. Now, the way that I'm currently approaching it is my 3 days a week, I'm doing full body workouts. In the past, I've done chest and back, and then shoulders and arms, and then a leg day, and I incorporate that throughout the week. But the way that I'm training now, I honestly prefer it because it allows me to hit my muscles more frequently while only training 3 days a week, which is great. And it kind of makes sense, just physiologically, it kind of makes sense that, when you're working your body, you want to be working your full body. You want to work it as a unit. To me, that makes sense. Maybe not to everybody. Some people might really want to focus on a certain muscle group. But to me, it makes sense. Any sport you're playing, it's very full body. Any sort of activity, let's say you're wrestling, let's say you are playing soccer and you're sprinting, you're not just hitting rear delts and then lower chest and then upper chest, and you're using your whole body as a unit. So I really like to use my whole body as a unit when I train. So training 3 times a week. Now, I always bring in the compounds, the heavy compound basics. 6 to 12 rep range for me. I don't really go below that very often. Occasionally I do. You know, it's tough. You can't give too many hard and fast rules here because these things, they have a lot of nuance. Occasionally I will do 3 rep maxes. Occasionally I will go for a 20 rep plus burnout set. But generally I want to stick to getting really strong in the 6 to 12 rep range. That is kind of the moneymaker area where you're going to elicit a lot of muscle growth from that, a lot of hypertrophy from that. There's sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, and then there is myofibrillar hypertrophy, I believe. And one of those is, you know, where you build up really, really dense, strong muscles, and that's what you get from doing, you know, under 5 reps. You get really, really strong in that power lifter rep range. So 1 to 5 reps, let's say. And then with the other form of hypertrophy, that is when you're really pumping the muscles up and doing volume, and they fill out, but you might not necessarily have so much of the foundation underneath them. So by sticking to 6 to 12 reps, you can really kind of get the best of both worlds with that. And I do believe in incorporating some heavy compound, you know, 3 rep maxes, as well as the 20 plus rep kind of rep range. Now, when I'm training, it's all about the compounds at first. So squat, bench press, deadlift, you know, the incline press, trap bar deadlift sometimes, barbell rows, overhead barbell press. You know, you can do a lot of these compounds with dumbbells, you can do them with barbells, but the basic takeaway is you want to have a bench press variation, you want to have a rowing variation. Good to have pull-ups in there. You want to have a curl, you want to have something for the triceps. Dips are fantastic. You want to have a squat in there, a deadlift in there, and then on top of that, that's where you can get into more of the bodybuilding stuff. So once I've done the heavier compound lifts, that's when I start to bring in more of the volume. That's when I'm going to be doing, you know, maybe cable curls, maybe I'll be doing calf raises, maybe I'll be doing hamstring curls. But I always like to have those heavy compounds in there. And then on top of that, you bring in the bodybuilding stuff. So that's really what's worked for me, guys. That is what I'm making the best progress on. My body is not overstressed. I don't feel like I'm constantly redlining it. My appetite is not going crazy, but I'm able to eat enough to build muscle. I'm weighing more than I ever have right now, which is fantastic. My strength is higher than it's ever been, which is also great. And the thing I like about incorporating the bodybuilding style training is that it gives you a variety of exercises. It's very diverse. So instead of just hitting the same stuff all the time and then you get diminishing returns, you know, you bench, squat, deadlift over and over and over again, and you just follow this like very, very typical program, you do get diminishing returns over time. And by kind of mixing things up, you're able to target muscles from different angles at different intensities, which will elicit some extra muscle growth, and you'll be able to recover and repeat that process. So, you know, people always laugh at the idea of muscle confusion, like an old P90X idea, and something that people used to talk about, like you got to confuse the muscles. And you don't necessarily have to confuse the muscles. Progressive overload still is the name of the game, but sometimes providing different stimuli to the muscles can help you elicit just an extra few percentage of growth. So that's why I like to do that. The old basics remain though. The compounds, progressive overload, getting strong in the 6 to 12 rep range, and pumping out some volume too, and some hypertrophy work, which is the bodybuilding stuff. So when you have all of those together and you're eating in the right way, that's when you can really start to make some good muscle gains. For me, cutting and bulking is completely different. Cutting for me, it didn't matter if I was sleep deprived, it didn't matter how much cardio I was doing, how often I was training, because all of those things tended to help me cut. You know, if I'm stressed, or if I'm like, you know, not sleeping enough, or if I'm eating like strict carnivore and I'm not eating enough and I'm fasting too much, that stuff just keeps me super lean, but it's not necessarily the best for your health. now that I'm focused on this bulking, I know that, you know, when I have a workout tomorrow, I better eat enough today. I better eat the right things. I better get enough sleep. And it just causes me to be so much more aware and particular and careful about my health and about my training and about my recovery, and even about stretching and active recovery and things like that, because I don't want to get injured under the heavy weights. So I've found that it's actually been a very welcome lifestyle change for me, and there's not really so much room for cheating or being lazy with it, because when you're under those heavy weights, you are going to wish that you stuck to your diet program, and you're going to wish that you slept enough and that you had basically just set yourself up for success. Because the last thing you want to do is get under a heavy squat, and you know, you knew that that was coming up, you knew that you had to go do that heavy squat, and now you're feeling depleted and weak and tired, and you didn't sleep enough, and you went out and all that kind of stuff. So really dialing in your nutrition, training, and recovery is the key ultimately to bulking and to building muscle. So I am gonna walk back and I will see you guys in the next video. If you have any questions about muscle building, specific exercises, maybe specific rep ranges, or if there was anything about this video that did not make sense, just drop me a comment and I will attempt to answer all of your questions. I will see you guys later.